Hey Eric, it's Yoni here. Just having a look at your PR here. This is coming along really nicely. It's getting a lot clearer week by week, so it's good progress, man. And yeah, just gonna point out a few nitpicky things that jump out at me straight away. I think that one of the things that happens with the character that's on screen left is just the size of the brush. Currently, although he has got the brush in the right hand, it just looks like because his two fingers are actually covering the tip, it looks like he's brushing the skull with the tip of his fingers instead of having just a little bit of the brush at the bottom for him to actually be doing those motions with like that. So maybe you can clear that up a little bit to just make it a little bit visually clear. There's a little tip of the brush at the bottom sometimes, but it's just really hard to see. So I think, maybe you just might want to make that a little bit clearer. With the character on screen right, everything seems to be looking fairly nice. I just think you've got kind of like, so like, yeah, I'd be careful with the rotation of the wrist around frame 20, because you've got quite a big pop there. So as he kind of like puts the brush down and he goes to actually start clearing his ears out a bit, I think you could make that gesture a little bit longer, because it's kind of like your hand's like this and it pops up like really quickly without too much time to settle as well. So I think you could just take your time there, even if the hand's kind of like getting to that part. So it's either make him stop earlier brushing, or to actually just do the hand gesture a little later, and that'll probably just soften it down a little bit and make him really feel that when he's putting down the brush, make that feel just a little bit more natural. So give it a good kind of like resting kind of like sense, because now it feels like it's a little bit weightless to a degree. Not that the brush is really heavy, but it's like the hand would tend to drop in a more natural way because the hand's heavy, not the brush. Okay, so he puts that down. I think kind of like in frame 60, when he's kind of like leaning against the desk, that's a good moment where you could actually exaggerate this pose just a little bit more and have him kind of like really feel that breathing in. You can play around with a little bit of the mouth over here, and also get him kind of like just to lean a little bit more forward. He kind of like bounces around quite a bit, and you really want to make that anticipation before he does this big head swoop much clearer. But yeah, I think kind of like you can just get into this pose here a little bit quicker, and the arc that happens from 72 all the way to 86, that's beautiful. That's absolutely spot on. You can really feel the brush there. Looking back on the screen right guy, one of the things that I do as well is have a look, sorry, not the screen right guy, the screen left guy, so your secondary character, have a look at frame 48 down to frame 63, because his magnifying glass, as he's dropping it down, is really linear, so that feels very spliny as well. Break that screen right hand, the one with the magnifying glass, down a little bit, and just have it have a nice drop as well. Make it feel like it has some weight. So just change the spacing. It's not a timing issue, it's really just the spacing, so that it spaces out properly. So just have a look at that from frame 40, let's say 41, yeah, right about frame 41 to frame 63 when he drops that down. Just make that hand look a bit better. And then the detail on him is pretty clear as well. I think that his eye line here feels a little bit detached for some reason. He almost looks like he's looking straight ahead in frame 94. This is your second shot, and I'm not sure if it's maybe like the screen right eye, the one that's further to the right of us, should be just aiming a little bit further away from camera, just a little bit more, because the screen, it just looks to me like he's looking straight ahead and just instead of just looking off to his side. So I think maybe a little adjustment on the eye line over there could be a bit clearer. Have a look out for the hand rotation, also on frame 103 boom, to 114. The hand's just rotating here. If that's happening, you know, lift a little bit of the arm up like that as well. Not a huge amount, but it just feels a little bit kind of like just stuck in place. If it's an IK arm, have a play around with the elbow rotation, but it's just a minimal thing. Just trying not to do this motion, but just a little bit of that. Okay, so have a look there. Face and everything's looking really good. I think almost that he kind of like relaxes his eyebrows on frame 136. Let me just check that with the dialogue. I think that either you can take it completely out because we don't see it, it's just a couple of frames and you don't really feel it to a degree because it's kind of like as soon as that motion starts, you can kind of, you go straight into the cut, which is on frame 140. So that little eyebrow, you know, rise that you've got in 128, you pretty much miss it completely. It's so subtle, it's all that. So almost like keep the eyebrows in that pose, you know, and just keep them more focused, because that way, you know, it's not kind of like too distracting. Okay, so cutting into the next guy, I'd always say that with the hand over here, you've got kind of like this big gesture of him getting his hand in his ear, and it just seems to me a bit jarring to actually have that motion on the cut, because everything else about the previous character is very static, and the other guy is just like that. You could cut to him and he already has his finger in his ear, or it's just, you know, a few centimeters away instead of having to be like all the way over here and coming in at frame 162 like that. So I think you can just keep that a bit more subtle and it'll make it a bit better. And even if he's like that, you know, already with his finger in his ear, and I'm trying to clean my, it's still working. You don't need to have that exaggerated motion there. So I really like the pose in frame 163. You know, I think that's absolutely gorgeous. Nice little detail as well of his finger actually, you know, rummaging around in his ear. Maybe to make it a bit softer, because it's currently moving up and down, have a look at maybe adding some rotation, and I'm not clear on which axis this is at all, but pretty much, you know, when he pokes his finger in his ear on frame 165 all the way to 185 even, you can just have him, you know, like this and this motion, but also have a little bit of a rotation here, so it's like that. Okay, I think kind of like the facial pose in this section specifically, you know, looking at frame 176, it just doesn't read to me about, I'd imagine some discomfort here to an extent, so I'd imagine him be a bit more, maybe a bit strained, a bit exaggerated on my behalf as well, but he's kind of like this. You know, and it just seems that you could just push the facial expression, you know, around that area of frame 176 to just be a bit more, you know, about what the character's feeling a little bit more. The eye line's right, but I just don't read a lot from it when I actually see it, you know, close up. And, you know, it's just, you know, then when you go into this take where he kind of like goes down and up and he goes back to his ear, that stuff's great. Careful with the hand as well. Frame 200 all the way to frame 112. It's a really quick move, so, you know, just anticipate it as well. Make him pull his finger out, drop the hand, you know, and also when you drop the hand, remember, keep it, you know, favoring one of the positions, either up or down, you know, but really from 200 all the way to 211, that drop of the hand is really linear and really spliney as well, so that's one of the areas that you got to work up on. And then he goes back to work, which is cool. And there's also another thing that's bugging me a little bit, which is your framing for this one. I know staging is a really big issue, but I think you can just pull the camera back a little bit so that we can see the top of his head. And it's, again, it's a personal note completely, but to me I always see really jarring. Unless somebody's in frame up to here and we're talking, going, yeah, not too bad, yeah, that's fine. But if somebody is just on the verge of frame and they're doing this, bonk, 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 it almost feels to me like they're banging their head against the top of the frame. But again, it's completely subjective thing there, but I think that you can just pull the camera out a little bit more, leave some air room in there, normally leave about, half a hand's worth of headroom on top of someone's head, and that just makes the composition just a little bit sweeter. And I think you can also pull the frame a little bit to screen right on that shot as well, just because even from your beginning shot there's loads of airspace on screen left when he's got his finger in his ear, so there's loads of space here. And then, when he goes over and he's brushing, he's literally on the verge of the screen right frame as well. So just move it over, keep the air around the character actually working quite nicely, and that should just improve the staging a little bit. And then when we come into here, last shot, being really picky again, looking at both characters, you've got kind of like, again, another linear arm going up, where you've got frame 267, the hands rising up, and also you've got a pop as well in the hand. Probably you've seen this as well, but try to think about where the breakdown's actually going to be there. So if you just add in another breakdown, one for the arm position, so it's either favoring up or it's favoring down, and then also include the change in the hand, so a halfway between pose for the actual hands in that area. So have a look at the screen, left hand from frame 267 going up to 282, look for that hand pop, which is right on frame 181. And then when he comes down, I think this gesture with the head from frame 281 down to 286, it's really broad again. Like the way that he gets, his hand up to his to his nose. But I think you want to stick the finger on the nose. So when you get to 293, lock that finger there and be and keep it stuck onto his face. Even until it's pretty much finished all the way down. You can keep the finger on the nose all the way, all the way, all the way, all the way, and then just do at the end, a drop down with the hand to 307. So in 307, move the finger away from the nose, but keep it really stuck for a good couple of frames, so it looks like he's really, really, really pushing with his sinuses. Yeah, I think it's you don't need this big hand gesture. So from 300 and keep the hand locked until 307, and just drop the hand down and do it straight. It doesn't have to go wow and fly all the way across the screen, because that's really distracting, and you really want to keep the focus here on his face. And when he does this last gesture of and he's coughing, so he's doing this gesture that goes from 312, goes up to 322, and he goes back down and across. That's really all over the place. Clean that up a little bit, make the gesture a little bit more, so instead of going all the way 1, 2, 3 like that, make him just go 1, 2, 3. Same gesture, just the arcs, bring them a little bit closer together so that we can actually see nice kind of like a pattern that might be something like a figure eight, or something that can actually allow us to actually just follow the shape much better. Arc tracking here all the way, but I think that that would be kind of like the note that I'd say. So just remove the big hand gesture coming down from frame 284, sorry, not 284, from frame 300, get that arm wave to 326. Out the way, just make the hand drop, keep that simple, and then just really focus the animation round the actual face, so we get the hand out of the way very quickly, and that just means that that last section of animation on the face will work that much sweeter. Okay, well, cool, man, great work, really nice looking at your stuff. It's looking good, and yeah, man, keep publishing. Some of this stuff is looking great. Okay, have a great week, man, and best of luck of handing in Sunday. I'm really tired myself. Been working on my shot, and see you soon. Take care.